wrote out a check for $20 billion into the bottomless pit of the peso program. And they put Tom Donahue in jail for a peso scam. Gee-many. Friends, how can he do that? And it says here in my notes, and I've shown them to you before, but I just want to make sure that maybe you see them up here again, that in Personal Computer Weekly magazine, 100 million cards, national identification cards, ready for issuance based on what? Waiting for Clinton to sign 2 executive orders, which could happen at any time. The Postmaster General issues out these national identification cards. Is this in accordance with our Constitution? How is he doing it? Because he's doing it by executive order, but where in the Constitution does it give him the power of executive order? There isn't one. But under the Emergency War Powers Act of 1933, it was actually regenerated. In 1917 it took place. Every president since Woodrow Wilson has renewed the Emergency War Powers Act, which says America is under a state of emergency, and the president has emergency war powers, and he bypasses the judicial and the legislative branch. All right, now I just want to kind of bring you up to speed. Now, let's shift into third gear here. Here is a picture of a guy I've known for a long time. This, by the way, this is in Alexandria Daily Town Talk in Louisiana. It's talking about a village out here at Fort Polk, Louisiana. It's going to cost $12 million. This is an international UN training village. And on the back here is good old John Shalikashvili. I pronounce his name right because I knew him when he was a captain, when he was a major. We kind of went up. He was an infantry officer. Then all of a sudden, he's 4 stars in charge of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And here I am out here in the Patriot Stream. You see, my eyes were opened, and John's probably never will be. So, but why is this important, other than showing you a picture of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? It's because he says that, quote, we are going to be involved in many of these peacekeeping missions all around the world. You know, I went to Vietnam, and I've been to other places as a Special Forces operative, and my dad was killed in World War II. My grandfather went to World War I. Kids in the military today go to how many wars in just one hitch? And I submit to you, well, I mean, can you help count them? Grenada, could you have gone to that one? And could you have gone to Panama? Sure. And could you have gone over to the Gulf? And could you have gone over to Somalia? And then could you have been sent to Rwanda, Burundi, and Haiti? I mean, that's 6 right there, times that you could have gotten your fanny shot off. And it was any one of them in the name of the United States. Not a one of them was. And so I have to wonder, when General Shalikashvili says we're going to be involved in a lot more of these, and he's enthusiastic about this thing. That's why they have the UN Training Center and a $12 million village they put together at Fort Polk. When you have a major in the Pentagon who writes this for the War College, the War College is the highest school that you go to in the Army, beware the warrior class, where he identifies, here's a threat analysis officer in the AXI. The AXI is an acronym. It means Assistant Chief of Staff Intelligence. And he writes this study and says, watch out for the Patriots. And his bottom line is, will the Army be able to muster up the degree of violence they need to deal with this? Why is the Pentagon intelligence writing a summary that goes to the War College about the American patriot being the major problem and target? Beware the warrior class. And all of you know about this questionnaire, actual copy of the questionnaire that was given to combat vets asking whether or not they think the president, it's all right to surrender command of U.S. forces to Boutros Ghali. Is that one of the questions on here? Sure is. And remember, the last question says what? would you be willing to fire on American citizens who would resist turning in firearms under a federal mandate? Isn't there a law? When I was a lieutenant, I talked to a lieutenant over here at the Armory. We're going to be at the Texas National Guard Armory tomorrow for Spike, and I was over today checking out the facilities and setting them up, and here was the lieutenant in charge. And when I talked to him, very fine young lad, he had the same training that I've had, and that is posse comitatus. We were talking about what happened at Waco. And a sergeant spoke up and said, "Ha! They used our helicopters, they used our tanks, they used our people because they said there were drugs. There was a methamphetamine lab at the Branch Davidian, and that was a lie, and it was never mentioned again, but they just wanted to get the National Guard munitions and vehicles, didn't they? Did they lie about it? Of course they lied about it. It's a signature of the government today. And this National Guard transfer sheet is, I think, one of the most shocking things to occur. It gives a list of where National Guards are going to be sent. And of course, I see Texas here is headed to the Czech Republic. But its status is ambassador has not yet approved. Whoop, let me see. Ambassador has approved. So it could happen any time. I said has not. That's not true. Now, why would they want to exchange the National Guard of Texas with troops that come out of the Czech Republic? Just think about it. Well, we are a universal force now, aren't we? Who is Shalikashvili talking about peacekeeping missions for? Is it for Bill Clinton or is it for Egyptian Boutros Ghali? It's for the UN, isn't it? There have been 15 leaders of the UN Security Council. Has there ever been one of them that wasn't a communist? From 1945 until right now today, every one of the people in charge of the UN Security Council has been and will be a communist from Russia. Has there been any person in charge of the UN that has not been a socialist? There has not been, including Boutros Ghali. So when they say communism is dead, how dead isn't it? When Russia said the Soviet Union has collapsed, where did they move their headquarters to? They moved it from Moscow to where? New York City. That's right. Now, does that mean that communism is dead? Yeah. Well, if communism is dead, and that's the antithesis, then what happened to free enterprise? It must be dead too, mustn't it? And what have we got? Socialist. A communist is just a socialist in a hurry. Now, I'm going to show you some things that I think should shock you. First of all, does this prove or not prove? And by the way, what is the color of communism today? The color of communism has gone from red to green. Thank you. Absolutely. From red to green. This is pretty serious, friends. Now, let me give you some facts that I think will shock you. Is there, well, and we keep, yeah, it's pink in San Francisco, but you just wait. You're going to see some interesting things come out of San Francisco. In 1945, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I want to fill in because you've mentioned San Francisco several times and the UN being communist run, etc. Let's prove it. In 1945, remember the Yalta gathering? We had FDR, we had Stalin, we had Churchill. Remember all those famous pictures at Yalta? This was just before the Germans surrendered. Everybody knew we had won the war. What did they go to Yalta for? They went to Yalta to divide up the world post-World War II. Who was the chief aide to FDR? It was a man named Alger Hiss. Alger Hiss was given instructions and left Yalta and went straight to where? Not to hell. He may have passed by there, but he went straight to San Francisco, where in this month, in April and May and June, Alger Hiss did what? He formed the United Nations. He was the first interim Secretary General. And then he was found to be what? Because they put him in prison. he was found to be a communist spy.